Welcome everyone to the first installment of this month in Microsoft Teams. My name is Tim Homan. I'm a project manager with Peters & Associates. And one of the areas that I was tasked with was to become the subject matter expert for Teams. And that has been a moving target because Teams is just updated so frequently. So what we're going to do with this series is just take a look at some of the core functionality of Teams, some of the new features that have been released, and along the way, I'm going to try to add some tips and tricks where I can. So let's get started with our first session. And today we're going to talk about chat. So move something out of the way here. All right. So simple agenda for today. I'm just going to do a high-level overview of what Teams is, just to make sure everyone's on the same page. We're going to get into some of the functionality of chat, some of the new features that have been added, and then I'm actually going to jump out of the presentation and do a live demo, and hopefully we'll save a little time at the end for some questions. So what is Teams? Microsoft calls it the hub for collaboration. What does that mean? You can use it to replace your email in your calendar. You can use it to create and share all kinds of different content. It can be used for meetings, like a lot of people are doing now. You can even replace your phone system. And that's what we use it for at Peters & Associates. It's our phones. Chat, which we're going to talk about today, the most basic way to get into Teams. And what does this mean? It lets you just connect across your organization with people and content and make you more productive, especially in these times where everyone's remote. So quickly, how can Peters & Associates help you with that? So this is our Teams, rollout wheel. We've broken it down into 4 different areas. We can do envisioning and readiness, where we do different workshops, just covering some of the core functionality and how you can use it in your environment. I really recommend anybody that's starting to use Teams really thinks about governance. You're going to be putting a lot of information into Teams, and you want to make sure that that's secure. So you not only want to know what you're putting up there, but who has access to it and what controls you can put in place to stop it from leaving your organization. That kind of all leads into an adoption area where we will do training. I've done a lot of custom training for customers. It's nice to see, the Teams in your own environment, and so I can do a demo in your environment for your staff. And then after all that, we get an engineer involved and they make sure all the buttons and dials are switched properly, and mail and calendar and all those things are working properly. So we can help out in any of those areas. So, why are we talking about Teams? Because it's really become a popular tool. Teams was launched worldwide in March of 2017. And during 2020, especially because of COVID, the adoption has just skyrocketed. So if you look just at the last year alone, it's gone almost 100 million more daily active users just in the last year alone. A couple other statistics I'll throw out there. When Teams launched in 2017, there were around 50,000 organizations using it. That has increased to over 500,000 organizations in 2020. And of the 91 of the Fortune 100 companies are currently using Teams. So this slide is particularly interesting to me because this is showing new features that have been added just in the last year. And if you look at the last 2 quarters, that's over 200 new features. That kind of is really what drove us to do this webinar series, because there's just been an explosion in functionality and features within Teams application. So I'm going to start in this first series is just going to be the chat app. It's the easiest way to get into Teams, but it's so much more than just sending messages back and forth. So the first area I want to focus on is it's persistent chat, and that kind of makes it stand apart from other chat applications. And I wanted some kind of graphic to represent, what does that mean, persistent chat? And I view it as just a growth in knowledge over time. So from your first chat to your last chat, it's all stored in there. So if you had a group chat and you added a person to that chat, they could scroll back through and see all the messages that have happened, any files that were attached, any links that were posted. And so it helps you bring people on board or add them to different areas. So I have here, this is the first chat I had in Teams, and it was September 27th of 2019. And at that time, we were actually still using Skype for Business, and we were beginning our transition into Teams. So today I scrolled and scrolled and scrolled till I got back up to the top of my messages. But you could also search that content. So there's a lot of different ways to interact with it. So, right, the most basic way to use the application is just click on the chat application in the app bar, and it pulls up your, recent chats, your favorites that you've pinned, and you can just start typing a message. It's the most basic way to have a chat message. When we go out into the demo, I'll show you 3 different ways that you can chat without using that chat button right there. And I mentioned earlier the ability to do group chats. It's another way that it takes the chat application to a whole nother level. So you can add up to 9 people. You can name that group, and then they all have that same functionality where it's persistent. You can share files between users. So it's just taking your private chat to the next level. I just mentioned sharing files, and here's just kind of a little picture of what that looks like. So within the chat, you can just click on the paperclip, grab a file from OneDrive or from your computer, and upload it into the chat. And again, it's persistent. So now your chat will have another tab, and it'll be files, and you can go back and review those files that you were sharing in that chat. What's nice about that is it eliminates the multiple document creation. So if you do this through email, you send a copy, they modify it, they send it back. So you have your original, you have the one they modified, and before long, you just get confused as to where we are, what's the current version. By sharing files within chat, you can work on the document in real time, and you're both working off the same version. Taking that a step further, and this gets into more of the Teams core functionality, it's using a Teams site. So every Teams site has channels, and those channels have a chat area. So here's the Teams application. This would be a Teams site, AdventureWorks. This would be the marketing channel. This is a little bit older slide. Now they're called posts, but it's just like your private chat, but now it's specific to content. So we're working on the AdventureWorks project. This is the marketing area of that project, and we can have a chat specific to that content. Just highlighting those areas there. So if you're successful at this and it takes off in your organization, it's a blessing and a curse, right? Now I have all these chat messages going around. It becomes easy to lose track of information. And so there's an option to save. I will demonstrate this. So you can save a message, and then there's just an easy way to access all the saved content that you have. And you can even unsave it if you're done with it to clean that list up. And then here is what it would look like if you were sharing a file in a chat and working on it collaboratively. And this is how we actually did our first Teams webinar that we did. There was a group of 4 of us. We created a channel on a Teams site. We put the PowerPoint presentation up there, and we were able to add content. We posted about different information we found, and we were able to build that first presentation. 1 copy of the document, everybody was able to share and give feedback. It worked really good. All right. So that's just, chat isn't the most complicated application in the Teams suite. I thought it'd be a good place to start. And so now I just want to get into some of the tips, some things that have come along since, the application was first released. I think one of the great things about Teams is it can do so much. Initially, it was also a huge drawback because there was only one window to do it in. If you were chatting, that was the window you had open. If you were in a meeting, now you couldn't get to chat anymore. You have to leave the meeting to go back to the chat. So they created the ability to pop out. So you can pop a chat out and you can just leave that open. So if there's someone you communicate with regularly, you can just pop that out and keep that open. Similarly, if there are people that you contact regularly, you can pin their contacts and they'll be at the top of your list. I'll demo all these things when we get out of the presentation. Saved, we talk about already. And then last, I have email it. So you're in a chat with a group and there's some information you think somebody else could use. There's an option to send it to Outlook. So really helps you just keep everybody in the loop. So if you ever been typing a message and you wanted to add another line and you hit enter, what does it do? It sends the message off. But if you hit shift enter, now you can get a second line. I'll show that as well. It's a much more evolved chat application. You can click on the format button down here, and it just gives you the whole suite of formatting tools. So you can bold and highlight and change color, and just makes that message richer and easier to communicate what you're trying to. The last thing I want to mention here, again, along the lines of if it becomes successful and you get a lot of information, you have the ability to mute or hide. So I am part of a weekly webinar series from Microsoft. And at the end of every seminar, I'd say about a dozen people just like to say thank you. And so I get all these messages that pop up. And it got to be so annoying that I went and I muted that specific chat. It doesn't prevent me from getting the messages, they just don't pop up. I can go back at any time and click on that group and read through all the messages that have been posted. And similarly, if you had something that you were part of that just maybe wasn't relevant or something that you just didn't need to see on a regular basis, you could hide that. The difficult thing about hiding a chat is finding it again, but I can show you how to do that. That's my high-level overview and kind of some of the tips and tricks. So let's jump out of this and we'll do a little demo. All right. So just to set the stage here, what you're looking at is this is a demo tenant of Office 365. So I have my administrator account, that's my Super Tim account, and I'm logged in on the desktop app for Teams. And then I have a second user, Grady. He is logged in via a web browser. And then thirdly, I have Lee, who is logged in on my cell phone. And he's in the Teams app on the cell phone. So as I had mentioned before, if I want to chat, I can just click on the chat app. And then I can just type a message to someone, something simple. And now you can see how this will pop up on my cell phone. And it's these auto responses are something new that have been added. So just like the desktop app, the Android app, the iOS app, they have been updated with new features as well. So that's the easiest way to send a message. Another way is anytime you see this pencil icon. So if you had a lot of people that you were chatting with, you may not be able to find them easily. You could just click this pencil icon. It'll open up a new chat. You could type in the person that you wanted to chat with, and it pulls up all your chats with that person. So here we go. Here's Grady. We'll say hi to him. And this will show up in the web browser. Here it is. There's even notifications in the browser, which is kind of nice. So something else to point out here is that, wow, just disappeared. Here we go. So the read receipt. So this was a new feature that was added. It's just nice to know when you send someone a message that it's been read. So this is a setting you can control at the organization level. You can turn it on or off. I would certainly recommend leaving it on because it's great to know that your messages have been read. So that, right, new chat, there's actually a shortcut to do that. So if I was on my calendar and I wanted to chat with someone, I could just do Control N. And so from anywhere you are within Teams, right, you can just do Control N and it'll pop up this new chat window. So I could say, can you meet today? Right, so yes. And then the last way, let's say again, I was in my calendar and I wanted to send a message. It's the command bar up here. So there's tons of commands up here. So /chat, and it prompts you just along the way. So Grady, and then what's your message? Can you meet? Oops. And I was able to send that message without even leaving the calendar app. And you can see it popped up down below here. So if we go back to the chat, we'll just show some of those other things we were talking about. If I wanted to add a line, so if I do line 1, and I do Shift Enter, now I can do line 2. And then I can click on the formatting toolbar here, and I could bold line 1, and I can highlight line 2. So it just gives you a whole bunch of different options. Some additional things built in. So here's this light bulb, which is praise. So it's just, you know, for wider recognition. If you want to give someone a pat on the back, you know, awesome. And we'll send it to the, so, you know, kind of trying to make it a little more personal, right? Especially because we're all remote and you don't have that same kind of ability to talk to people. So just a little something to make it a little more fun and engaging for people. If we go back to this chat, I'll show you how to do a file share. So you just click on the paperclip. Where's your document? I'm going to upload something from my computer. I have the Teams voicemail setup document I want to share. Yeah, I'm going to share that with Lee. So now it's going to upload that document into Teams, and then I could type a message here. And then I can send that message off. And what's really nice is that even on a mobile device, right, I can view that document. So now, right, it's opening this document in Word on my cell phone, and I could even edit this document on my cell phone. And so if I come back over, right, to my desktop app, here's the Files tab I was talking about, and you can see all the files that I've shared with Lee. And so, you know, we're working off the same document. Lee has access to it from if he logs into his desktop or on the cell phone. It's just a great way to share and collaborate on a document. If we take chat a little further, you can create a group. And so I mentioned this before. This is just a 2-person group. You can change the name of it if you want to. So just click the pencil icon up here, IT, we'll call it the IT team. And if you want to know who's in the group, I can come over here. There's another icon for that, right? So it's Grady, Lee, and Tim. I could add people. I could take myself out of it. So just the same app, but now you're using it for group functionality. Let's see. Quickly, I'll show you some status. So I got to work on some proposals this afternoon. I don't want people to bother me. Typically, your status is based on your calendar, but you could go in at any time and change it. So I'm going to mark myself as busy, but I don't want to forget to turn that off. Give it a second to update here. There we go. So what I can do is I come back in here and go under status again, and I can do duration. And this is another feature that was added. And I'm going to say, instead of today, for an hour. And so now my status will be busy for the next hour. So if somebody else wants to look, they can see where my status is. And then at the end of that hour, it'll switch you back to whatever my calendar says I'm at. Additionally, not a ton of settings for chat, but there are some notifications. So if we come under notifications, we go down to chat. And there's really 3 areas you can look at. At mentions, replies, and likes and reactions. And you can have those be a banner, which pops up down here, or just in your feed. And so you can turn off, so only in the feed, or have the banner in the feed. And so where that would show up, your feed is under activity. So anytime you get a chat, you can just come over to activity and it will show you all those things. So if we take this next step, so we want to look at a Teams site. So here is the Mark 8 project team and the go-to-market plan. And now, I mean, this looks very similar because, right, it's just the chat application within a Teams site. So it's a much more focused chat. It's not about anything. It's really about the go-to-market plan for the Mark 8 project team. So here's some of the other tips that I had talked about. Let's go back and do it from there. Oh, so let's just start with a simple one. So I chat with Lee all the time. So here's that pop-out icon. If I click on that, right, now I have a separate window which just contains that chat with Lee. And so I can leave that open. I can throw it on another screen if I want, but I don't have to worry about, right, going back into chat, finding Lee every time I want to send a message to him. I can just leave that open. I can minimize it. I can bring it back up, right, and it's right there. So let's go into pinning it. Let's say the IT team, I think this is going to be important. So I'm going to pin them. And so now they show up at the very top. So they're above recent. I know there's going to be a few that I'm going to want pinned, so I'm going to keep them up at the top. Let's go into the team site here. And let's see. I don't know. We'll just take this message here, and I want to save this. So any message that you see, when you click on those 3 dots, you have all kinds of other options. So I want to save that. So now if I click on my icon for my settings, I can come down to saved. And there are the messages that I have saved. And so let's say I'm done with this, I can come back over here and I can unsave it, right? And then it'll go away. So unsave this message, and now it goes away. So it helps you keep track of the important things, but it doesn't become overly cluttered. If I go back to the team site again, let's say that same message I thought was important, and I wanted to share it with somebody else. So I can click on the 3 dots again, and I can say share to Outlook. And so now it's going to prepare a message. It's going to preload, right, who it's from, and the message is going to be in the content, and it'll let me pick who I want to send it to. Almost out of time. Got a couple more things I want to show. We'll just close that. So let's come back over to chat. And let's say, interesting. So there are bots that are part of, there it is. So I had already hidden this. So this is a chat with a bot, and I get a lot of messages from it. So I don't want to see those, so I can click on the three dots and mute it. And so now if I click on this, the messages will show up, but they just won't pop up. I don't see banners for them. Similarly, I could hide this altogether. And so when I do hide, it disappears from my list altogether. To get it back, you have to know what it was called. So I know it was poll. So if I type poll in the search bar up here, let me try that again. So because I've searched it before, it'll show back up. And then I can click on the dots again and I can say unhide. And then the last thing I wanted to show real quick, we're almost out of time, is third-party apps. So last time I checked, there were over 800 third-party apps. The one I wanted to show today is the Starbucks app. So with the Starbucks app installed in your Teams environment, you can send somebody a virtual cup of coffee. So gift is for Lee. I'm going to send him $10 so he can get a cup of coffee. Great job. And I can preview this. I'm not going to actually send it because he doesn't really exist. And it's my money. So if I hit checkout, though, it would send him, he'd get a pop-up in his chat that looks just like that with a $10 gift card for Starbucks. So that was 30 minutes. There's a little bit of time left. Let me jump back here and just mention, jump me all the way to there. What we have next, so our next session will be meetings. So next month, I'm going to cover Teams meetings. It might be a little longer session because there's a lot more you can talk about with meetings. And then that would bring me to questions. If there are any, I have time to answer them. I don't see any.
Tim, I'll ask a question.
Sure.
If you say something in a chat that you wish you didn't say, either a minute later, a week later, a month later, what are the user options to delete it, and what are the admin options? You don't need to show me, but are there some capabilities to dial things back?
There certainly are. And those are settings that you can control at an organization level, but you have the ability to delete a message. Initially, when I had started playing with it, we had turned that option off. And right off the bat, an organization got back to me and said, yeah, someone posted a message with a typo in it, and they couldn't go back and edit it or delete it. So we're like, yeah, I guess that does make sense, right? Because you really want a record of things. This is for your organization, but you could be a little too secure and say, yeah, once it's posted. Well, yeah, I want to go back and fix my typo. So yeah, you can go back and edit it or delete it. Those are options that are available to you.
Awesome. And there are two questions and one question that I can answer right off the bat. Yes, we do record all of our sessions, all of our webinars. I'll be working on the recap later this afternoon, and hopefully we'll be up by next week at the latest. And I can send person who asked this question, I can send you an email once that recap is posted. And then the other question was for Tim, where are the shared files stored and how secure are they?
So one of the great things about Teams is it puts things in a lot of different places, but it's all Office 365. So chat messages are stored in email, Outlook. Files are actually stored in OneDrive. So if you send a file via a chat, that's stored in OneDrive. And then if you upload a file to a Teams site, that's stored in SharePoint. So it's Outlook, Exchange, OneDrive, and SharePoint. And all the governance rules that you have available in Office 365 can be applied across all of the teams. So however you have your OneDrive set up, those rules will apply toward the files that you share in a Teams chat.
Awesome. And that looks like that is all the questions that we have. So we'll let everybody go, and thank you everybody for joining, and thanks Tim for the awesome presentation. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You're welcome. See you in a month.